मुर्शिद वाली लाली हो यार, मुर्शिद वाली लाली हो यार, मुर्शिद वाली लाली हो यार, मुर्शिद वाली लाली हो यार। जो रंग रंगे यार गुड़ा रंग रंगे यार, जो रंग रंगे यार गुड़ा रंग रंगे यार, जो रंग रंगे यार गुड़ा रंग रंगे यार, जो रंग रंगे यार गुड़ा रंग रंगे मुझे रंग दे रंग दे, मुझे रंग दे रंग दे, मुझे रंग दे रंग दे, मुझे रंग रंग दे, मुझे रंग दे रंग दे, मुझे रंग दे रंग दे, मुझे रंग दे रंग दे, मुझे रंग रंग दे, मुझे रंग दे रंग दे, मुझे रंग दे रंग दे, मुझे रंग दे रंग दे, मुझे रंग रंग दे, मुझे रंग दे रंग दे, मुझे रंग दे रंग दे, मुझे रंग दे रंग दे, मुझे रंग रंग दे, मुझे रंग दे रंग दे, मुझे रंग दे रंग दे, मुझे रंग दे रंग दे, मुझे रंग रंग दे, मुझे रंग दे रंग दे, मुझे रंग दे रंग दे, मुझे रंग दे रंग दे, मुझे रंग रंग दे।
There she is. Get that out there. Thanks. That's an ice. That's an iced Americano, Indian style. You know, the box study was quite nice. They looked exactly like what I thought about them. The Americano stuff, when you're really excited because you find an Americano, no, they didn't go into us. Let's see. There was a lot of stuff. The Sufis call it baraka, such incredible personal magnetism. Just because of the person who he was, people would come to him and they would be like, I really want to know what you know. I'm really lost. I really want to be able to find that higher connection. And so inevitably over 10 to 15 years of traveling through the United States and through Europe, he inevitably had that choice of like, well, you can be a touring musician and you can go to all of these places, or you can really do what your higher calling is, and your higher calling is to be a teacher to people, and not a teacher of the ego, like a professor, but somebody who can hold that torch of what that light is that everybody always they gravitate to and they really desire in their life. And so inevitably at one point in time, Hazrat Nayak Khan put down his Veena, and he began a series of going all throughout the United States, through Denmark, Germany, France, and all of these different places to really start telling people what Sufism was. And Sufism, if you don't know, is, if you look in the dictionary, it says the mystical section of Islam. But Sufis actually really believe that it is, the Sufis went way back, way, 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 way back, because what we all kind of hold true is that no matter who the master saint or prophet was, we were the people hanging out on the doorstep after everybody had gone, drinking the chai with them, talking about really what the meaning was, and how do you put it in that heart space, and how do you dissolve all those things that are between you and what God is. So, I'm feedbacking. Hey, Naomi, will you turn me down just a little bit? Thanks. I was feedbacking. It was kind of exciting. So that's a little bit about Hazrat Nayak Khan. And he was really, there's Indra Shah, like there's, not Indra Shah, but there were several other Sufi teachers who came to the United States in particular. But Hazrat Nayak Khan was really the one who, a lot of it I think is because he was a musician and a poet, that through a country that was so full of idealism and hunger in their hearts, that he really was able to speak their language. And so he started a whole bunch of really amazing centers of learning in the West. And so what ended up happening is so fast forward to this year, I was gifted with a free ticket to go to India and to go celebrate in the Urs. And the way that life always happens, it ended up being 19 days instead of 8 days. And so I got a chance to travel with my own teachers who I've had since I was 9. And in fact, I've got a great picture of her. Her name is Murshida Khadija Goforth. That's her. She's on the right-hand side. And so she is one of the main Sufi teachers through the school that I belong to on the West Coast, and tells a great story about when I was 3. And it was a little embarrassing that I would never be civilized, and she thought that she was going to have to take up money to get me to be civilized. But so we went over there to go celebrate within the Urs of Hazrat Nayak Khan. So when we got there, I wasn't exactly sure what was going to happen, but I did know that our whole goal was to be able to, India is really, in some sense, for the lineage that I come through, not only through Sufism, but my mom's a yogi and lived there for quite a while, that these are the things that were so incredibly important in my life. They were the foundations of a lot of the things that I believed, and conversely, it's actually a lot of the foundations of what has built SoulFood, because any of the decisions that I've made on that level have normally been through the teachings that I've gotten through the Sufis and the yogis. And so when we went, we got a chance to participate in the Urs. And the Urs, it's called the Durga, and the Durga is where Hazrat Nayak Khan, or Sufi, like most of the saints are buried, and it's like a building. So there's a tomb within inside the Durga. And sometimes you can go to Durgas, and I didn't realize, like we went to one of them, and there was like 132 different people buried in there, and I was like, whoa, this is a frickin' Durga. And it was really big. But this one in particularly was built after Hazrat Inayat Khan died by some of his followers from Denmark. And so it's absolutely beautiful and incredibly amazing. And so this woman on the left-hand side, her name is Hamida. And so Hamida was one of the very first people, when I was kind of thinking about it, it was kind of like meeting this whole other different soul tribe of India. Because anybody I really met had these open hearts. We're all about community. We're all about change. And I was like, oh, it's kind of like being home, just with rickshaws and red curry that didn't agree with me. So it was pretty amazing. And she's a professor up in Kashmir, and Kashmir is the northern part of India, and Kashmir is right up next to Pakistan, and Pakistan and India have been fighting over Kashmir for a really long time. And right now there's a huge, huge amount of political unrest there, and she's a human rights activist. So while we were actually there during the first couple of days, she got word that her husband and her sister had been put in jail because they're now political prisoners. And what I thought was what was amazing is that all of the people that I met, and Hamida is just one example, all of these people that I met while I were there were working for the betterment of their communities in a way that sometimes was really dangerous, sometimes would inevitably land them in jail, their families taken away. She had to leave halfway through because she has a son, and one of the things that they'll do with political prisoners is they'll also take their families and they'll ship their kids to different places. So, but while she was there, one of the things that I was so impressed with her outside of she was just this like radiant, kick-ass lady who you just wanted to hang out with and eat dinner with. One of the things that she had talked about was that in all of her life as growing up, it was very poor, and getting the chance through, funny enough, the Hope Foundation, which is kind of the big reason why I wanted to do this talk, she was able to become a university professor, get the education that she needed, and be able to really be active in changing people's lives. And she also is probably one of the coolest Sufis I've ever met, because they're feedback. It's kind of exciting. Because one of the things that she talked about was that for her, having such a strong lineage, and in her sense it didn't matter what lineage you come from, but having a strong lineage of people that you can really fall back onto, whether it's a community or a spiritual lineage, is what actually allows her to sleep at night, because she knows she's not alone, because in that kind of etheric world or the heart space world, she's never alone. She's got people who've got her back no matter what, even if they can't be in Kashmir to help her get out. Her husband and her sister, she knows that she has people like me in the United States holding a light around her and just sending out love. And so that was also an incredible experience that I had all the time in India, because of the way it's such a beautifully old culture that's based on spiritual principles, and very scientifically spiritual principles, that there is that space, that the heart and the connection to something bigger is such an important grounding experience, and it's beautiful to see how that works. So, but the earth was really beautiful, and is this the right one? Oh, okay. So, the Urz is located in the Nizamuddin Aulia Basti. Nizamuddin Aulia was a Sufi saint from the 12th century, and he was really into ticking off all of the people who held power, because he was really like, his teacher was Bibi Fatima Sam, who was a woman Sufi saint who had died maybe about, I think it was 100 years before he was born, but she has this huge catalog of teachings, and she was kind of like, okay guys, you know, she was starting to see how the tides were shifting, and how the people who didn't have as much power were becoming even more and more oppressed. And for her, everybody was equal in God's eyes. So regardless of who you were, what you did, you were a part of God. And so there was nobody who was higher than the other person. Everybody had different jobs, but there wasn't a better or a worse. And so as she was watching this change specifically during her time, she wrote volumes and volumes of what we would now consider children's rights, what we would consider women's rights. And Nizamuddin Aulia, who is this huge saint, and in fact, he's a basti that's, they call it the Nizamuddin Aulia Basti. And the basti is like a neighborhood. So there is this one little small corner, and people have made a little village around it. And so when you go there, it's a lot like walking down an 18th century village. And so, so it was a very interesting experience to be walking through. And this is where all the untouchables live, the people who are rag pickers, who will drive the cars, who clean up the street. When you walk down the street, the smell is something that I've never smelled before. And it's something that's really visceral, and it sticks with you. It's the smell of humanity, in all honesty. Like, we're very lucky because we have a very antiseptic. If we want it to smell like patchouli, it can smell like patchouli. And it's like whatever we want it to smell like, we have this option. But when you go there, you're very much confronted with, this is humanity. This is humanity when we live really close together, and this is humanity when there's such a huge disparity between who we take care of and who we don't take care of. And that was incredible, not only in a way of like, oh, holy cow, this is kind of what humanity can do, but it also makes coming back here like, okay, I'm going to breathe now, all right? This is really, and it's an amazing, humbling, grateful feeling to having grown up in a place where I know that no matter what happens, I will always be able to feed my daughter. But that doesn't necessarily happen in other places. And so to go into here and this incredible, incredible durga that's in the middle of this was another one of those dichotomies of going to a third world nation where that's so based on spirituality, but it's also got such a incredibly huge differences between the elite and people who have nothing. Oh, I can't see it. You have to excuse me. This is the first time I'm using this projector with this computer, so. Yeah. So during the part of the Earth celebration, this was another kind of part of me that made me actually miss home a lot. Actually, it made me miss the first Friday nights of every month here. This is at the Nizamuddin Aulia Basti. When you go into the Durga, so when we got there, if you kind of think of it as a street, Hazrat Inayat Khan's Durga is right in the middle. Nizamuddin's is off to the left. And Nizamuddin Aulia, it is 3 to 4 times the size of this building. His tomb is the size of the main part of SoulFood. Women aren't allowed to go into the tomb, but you can be around the outside of it. And it's one of the first places I've ever been to in a man-made structure that people come to pray every single day. Every time we went there, we saw the exact same faces with other different people coming in. We inevitably went kind of at the same time every day. But one of the things that was so phenomenal about India was that their temples, their ashrams, their durgas, mosques, people are so, their culture is so ingrained in it that most people go almost every single day, especially the people who you would, like in their system is of the lower caste system. So it was amazing to see the devotion that happened when you went there. When it was a little funny to go for the first time because it was a sea of white faces because you could tell who all the Europeans were who were coming to celebrate Hazrat Inayat Khan, which was humorous on so many different levels, especially when everybody found out that the women's bathroom was behind one of the tombs and it was just this like little hole, whereas the men's bathroom was, an actual bathroom. And so you had a whole bunch of women who had grown up in, a lot of them had grown up in the 60s in California, and had gone through all this. And so there was a really interesting thing as being a visitor there to really have to be okay that you were going to have to go behind somebody's tomb and to go to the bathroom. And when you're pregnant, that kind of was an amazing adventure in itself. Got really good at it, though. It was kind of nice. But Nizamuddin Aulia on the first Friday, which was also on every Friday, they have a Qawwali group that comes in and sing. And I don't know if you guys are all familiar with Qawwali, but it's probably one of the most intense form of music that I've ever seen. There were groups of people who would sit, and one person played the harmonium, and then they were all classically trained qawwali singers, which you start when you're between 2 and 6, and then you can only lead a qawwali group when you get into your 50s if you've been playing that long. It's intense, and so you would watch everybody, and everybody would come there to pray, and the qawwali singers would go into such ecstasy that they would start bouncing, and it was amazing to see them, because for them this was such an important part of their community, and people came every Friday night to see them play. It was the same people on all 3 nights, and you know, and it's like everybody knew each other, and it was that kind of like what we do here, in that sense of like people come here to connect with the music, and then connect with their community at the same time. Really? That's kind of exciting. Do you need this? Okay. It was kind of funny because the school that I belong to, which I always kind of call the West Coast roots of the Sufi movement, like we're about as like left as you can get. We were in charge of the celebrations this year, and one of the things that has never happened until our part of our school started this is that there's what's called a charter, and the charter goes over like a grade basically, and it's to get the magnetism or the baraka of the teachers who had been there before. So what we did was we took Hazrat Inayat Khan's charter and we took it to Nizamuddin Aulia, because Nizamuddin Aulia is part of that Chishti lineage and is a teacher, called the teacher of our teacher. And then what ends up happening is that you take the charter, and traditionally it's only men who get to take the charter because of just the way that their culture has really kind of has evolved, and a lot of it had to do with tribal laws. It's not anything to do with Quranic law. They're both really, really different and pretty important distinction. Excuse me. But this was us. Oh, like in the tour that we were with, there were 35 women and 5 men. So, and then a lot of the people who came also were women, and so there was an enormous amount of women carrying this chadar down this 18th century looking village to Hazrat Inayat Khan's, and it was really interesting because to get out of the durga, you had to walk through people's, it's almost like an apartment building in some sense, like they built up from it. And so there were little kids and moms and people hanging out, and it was kind of funny because you could almost hear this thing in the back. They're like, what the hey is a whole bunch of white women carrying chadars down the street? I mean, there was very much like this big like eyes of like, is that okay? Are you supposed to be doing that? And we also had, I'm going to say we, since we were all there and really responsible, had also been the first group ever to have a woman who led one of the prayers, Khatum. And Khatum is the very end prayer, and which breaks almost every single law that they have for the Durga. And I've never seen people jump up that so fast and try to grab the microphone from somebody's hands. So it was really amazing. And but it was a really good lesson in when you go to people's places to really understand what the adab is, and if you're going to break it, make sure that you know why you're breaking it. And we probably won't ever get to do prayers there again, but that, or at least lead them, because that was a big one. But just from being through the school that I am, it did really push the boundaries of it, and it was a good lesson to be there at the very first. Think of make sure you do know what lessons and things that you break before you break them, because there's always a consequence to them. And not that the consequence is a bad thing, but just to be really fully aware.
It was actually really fun to see him jump that fast, so it was kind of like... Yes, they did. And my favorite thing is the person who... There is a place in New Mexico called the Lama Foundation, which is a Buddhist and Sufi foundation. You can go and you can work there over the summer, and it's all about service. And the woman who started it, her name is Asha Greer, and she's this like 6'2" woman who's been a Buddhist practitioner for a really long time, and she's the one who led it. And she forgot half the words, so it was pretty brilliant. But yeah, so it was definitely not exactly what they were expecting, but she has so much heart, and she's such a remarkable woman that it was, we all got a chance to giggle and just know that, we got a chance to be there and be a part of that experience. And the people who were there, the people who really held the rules of the Durga weren't necessarily that excited, but it was a good moment of they also understood that there was no disrespect that was meant, and that it was really all about heart. And in fact, it was really cute. She ended up hugging all of them before she left, but I don't think we actually get to do that again. No matter how much heart was there. This is Dr. Farida, and Dr. Farida is, out of all of the Durgas and actually many of the ashrams, and I can only speak for New Delhi where we were at, so I know that the culture, because there's 53 states in India, each one has their own different way of working, own different kinds of styles of laws, cultural norms. But Dr. new capital, it had moved when the British came in. She works a lot with the people who run the government to make sure that the people in the Basti actually get fed, because that's what she uses a lot of her influence with international groups to do. And she actually took us on quite a few tours of different Durgas, and she was just this wealth of information. And she was really great about being really present to any questions that happened. And she also was really amazing about, it's stuff that I see here a lot of the times, when somebody new walks through the door and you've been here enough that somebody new walked through the door, and she's really good at like seeing somebody new and being like, okay, I see you, okay, so this is what we need to do next. And she makes people feel at home regardless. And so one of the Durgas that we went to was was on a Friday, and that was when everybody came to the mosques. And so a lot of, we all had our head covered, which was something that was pretty normal if you spent a lot of time in the Basti, just because it kind of cut down on some of the cultural misunderstandings that could happen, especially as a woman. And she was really remarkable in being able to, we had come out, and it was, I think it was the Naqshbandis, I think is who they were, and they're very, 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 very traditional Muslims. In fact, their women are part of what's called purdah, which is female exclusion, or seclusion, not exclusion, which kind of the same thing. I think we had that conversation yesterday. But so we came in, and there were several of us who broke a lot of the kind of the cultural norms that happen. And she was somebody who can really walk between those two worlds and be able to say, okay, these are Westerners, they don't necessarily know the subtle intricacies, this is kind of what they're doing, and was able to really bridge those two worlds. So it was amazing. We actually ended up eating lunch with a whole bunch of men who had just come out of the mosque, which doesn't happen very often, especially because of their views on separation of men and women. And it's incredible some of the dialogue that got to happen. And she was the translator, and she might have translated things a little more gently than like what might have been said, but she was really amazing. And she's somebody who, if you ever do go to Delhi, would be somebody who would be incredible to talk to, because not only is she, like, I think she has her doctorate in literature, so she Persian literature and Indian literature, but she has lived in Delhi her whole life, and has actually worked and been caretakers of several of the durgas, and she's actually been a caretaker of a couple of ashrams and things like that. So if you ever get a chance to, she's great to hang out with. Okay. Then, is that the right one? Oh, okay. I wanted to, so in thinking about what I was going to talk about, part of me was a little nervous about it because I wanted to talk about the Hope Project, if only because it's such an incredible example of what we can do here in certain ways. But one of the things is that as being somebody who gets to hold a post for here, one of the incredible things that I was able to really experience was a sense of when you go someplace and you give your heart so fully to something on a consistent basis, how it can change the world, even if you died in the 10th century. So this is Bibi Fatima Sam's Durga, and every time that I went to this Durga, it's a women's sanctuary. In all honesty, the men have to sit in the back, which doesn't happen in most Durgas. In fact, normally they're separated so they're even, one on one side and one on the other. But this Durga is actually primarily, it's a women's sanctuary. And every time I went there, there was that lattice that's around it. There was at least, I would say, anywhere between 4 to 10 women clinging on it, crying. Because really what Bibi Fatima Sam was that she was a little bit like what we would consider Kuan Yin in the Buddhist religion. She was all about compassion. And compassion for self and for the things that the people that are around her. And so this was the most impacting place that I went to because it really was such a concrete understanding of if you really walk that path that you're meant to walk and you walk it in such a full realized space of like, this is where I'm going and this is what I got to do, and with such an incredible heart that people come to the place, come to this place and they feel that, like, you couldn't walk in there and not start crying. Like, I watched people walk in all the time. Like, I started bawling. I was so not prepared for that because that's not normally something I do. And I walked in, and the first thing you started to do was you started to cry because it was home. And there was no person who I saw walk through there, even the people who kept the Durga safe, that didn't cry when you went in there. And partially why I was so affected by that was that one of the things that she writes about is that we all have that capacity. We just have to believe that we have that capacity. And coming back to the States after seeing a lot of the things that I saw while I was there, and also just the culmination of life here, it was one of the saddest things that I've seen that is an affliction of the West, is that we put this faith outside of ourselves, that we, if we just get that car, if we just get that job, if we just get that relationship, if we just get all of those things, then we'll be whole. Bibi Fatima Sam didn't have anything. She lived in a hut. That's actually where her hut was right where she's buried. And she was poor. And but she was so compassionate. And I mean, Mother Teresa was the same way. We get all of these saints and prophets who come through that we get a chance to see this. But this was the first time, I think, for me personally, that it was so concrete that we're the only people who are stopping ourselves. And in a place like India, where to see people on the side of the road with half, disease, half eaten legs, but still sitting there in front of an ashram crying because they have touched a Krishna consciousness, and it is so incredibly beautiful, was such an impacting thing because we all have that inside of us. And so that was one of the things that I really wanted to bring back, was just that awareness. And I was kind of laughing because it makes me feel like a Jack Canfield book or something like that, but we really do all have that potential inside of us to really bring into fruition what we know needs to happen. And we really do. And it's amazing. You kind of have to go to a place that has nothing to see them doing everything, and you're like, oh my good God, I have a car that runs, I've got a place that there's so many things that I can do. And I don't need to go to India to save anybody because they're saving themselves just fine, you know. Oh, and this was the other guy I wanted to talk to you about. He's really fabulous. And this was the other, let's see if I can get you to go big, because he's brilliant. Oh, look, hello. He was the other person outside of the Hope Foundation that I wanted to talk to you guys about. His name is Taisitsu Rinpoche, and he lives up in northern India. And so in the Tibetan lineage, there's, so you've got the Dalai Lama that we all know, and then there's other Dalai Lamas that go out from under, like kind of from below him, and or not below him, but at different levels. And Taisitsu is actually a Dalai Lama. And it was really funny because I thought he was like in his like late 20s, early 30s, and it just because he's all like glowy, and he's 62. I know, I know. And just absolutely, I mean, and that picture was taken, I didn't take that picture because my thumb was in the picture of his face, so it didn't work out so well. But my teacher took this picture 2 years ago, and that is exactly the way that he looks. And one of the things that was also incredibly impacting, I saw this, I was getting ahead of myself. So Taisitsu is this really, some of you guys might have heard of the Karmapa. He came through about 2 years ago. He was on the cover of, I think it was in, yeah, at the Paramount. And he was a 14-year-old boy who was in Nepal, who was a realized Dalai Lama, who totally busted butt through Nepal, China, and got all the way to India and showed up on the doorstep of the Dalai Lama that we all know, and knocked on the door, and the Dalai Lama started crying and hugged him and was like, man, I've been waiting for you. So Taisitsu is actually the Karmapa's teacher at this point in time. And so, so one of the things that in trying to figure out and understanding that you know, when you go on pilgrimage, you know you're going to get a whole bunch of stuff, but it was kind of like going to India and having India go, blah, here's everything for all the people that you know too. And probably didn't need to do the plah thing, but one of the things that hit me really strongly that I wanted to bring back to my community was what Taisitsu had to talk about. And when we got there, we sat in this very small room that was probably, you know, a little bit smaller than the cafe. There were 40 of us in there with him and his 4 companions. And his companions were a little scary in a brilliant way because you knew if anything happened, you were in deep trouble. And in getting to talk to him, what he had come to talk about was actually teachers in the West. And actually, funny enough, about meditation and the West, because most of us were from the West who were listening to him. And one of the things that was so remarkable that I wanted to bring back that he talked about was actually how the West views teachers. So how the people in the United States, how the people in Germany, how everybody view teachers. And one of the things that he talked about was that he gets very afraid when he has people who are from the West who want to be his students. And all of us were like, I mean, we're hanging out with this guy and all of us are in awe. And we're like, why are you afraid? And, you know, we're all feeling like, oh, I'm so sorry. Is it our capitalism? You know, what's going on? And one of the things that he talked about is that the West doesn't have a lot of discernment when it comes to teachers. And it's not necessarily the person, but understanding what we have. Europe and the West has a really good history of building temples around our teachers' faults. So we don't necessarily have the discernment to be like, this is, you know, this is the person and this is the teaching. The teacher is just kind of like, to use very metaphysical terms, like it's like the channel for the teaching. And so there's a distinguishment between the ego of the person and the teaching. And what he finds is that when he works with people a lot from the West, that they make monuments and they make temples out of his faults. Where, as he likes to say, he's like, well, when I'm speaking and all of a sudden the mic goes out, or somehow there is a fuse that's blown, and then I look at my companions, it was actually them, because they understand that it's Taisitsu speaking and not the lineage speaking. And it's one of the messages that he likes to carry to specifically to the States, because as spiritual seekers, as any kind of seeker, it doesn't really matter if you're an atheist. You know, say you're a musician and you want to find a music teacher, and your music teacher has a fault, and then you all of a sudden embody that transmission of that fault, because we don't use our discernment, because it's not necessarily a part of our culture to use discernment with our teachers. And that was one of the big things that he was like, your teachers are human. They make mistakes and they really screw up, but there is a lineage that they bring that is really what we're supposed to be listening to. And to have the discernment of like, if your teacher's not for you, then your teacher's not for you, and that's okay. There's no judgment on that. There's no need to attach to that. Just, it's okay. There's somebody else out there who's going to have the right vessel for the lineage that you want to belong to. And so that was pretty awesome. And the other thing that he talked about too was one of my favorite parts. So all of us Westerners are there, you know, we've all been meditating for a really long time, and we're all just like chomping at the bit to talk to this great like Tibetan teacher. And so meditation comes up, and he's all like, oh, it's a sad thing when you become a meditator. And, you know, like all of us are like, oh my God, you're a Buddhist teacher and you're saying it's a sad thing to be a meditator, you know? And one of the things that, it was a little, I had some anxiety. And what he was talking about is that one of the downfalls of having such a nomadically young culture is that we attach ourselves to different things like meditation. Boy, you can meditate and you can meditate and you can become a meditator. In fact, I've seen it in people's descriptions before, like, I'm a professor and a meditator. It's like, oh. And he was like, that's a really sad thing, because your whole goal as a meditation is to be the meditation, not the or part of it, but the meditation. And so one of the things, too, that his big message to the West, especially in communities like this, that tap into that spiritual aspect of it is that not only to have discernment with your teachers, but to also be present to what you're doing, in the sense of like, you don't want to become the action that you're performing, whether it's meditation or anything like that. You actually just want to be who you are at the great core of it, to socially unconstruct all of those things that are in the way of being who you actually are. So don't become a meditator. That was the other thing I had to say. Just don't do it, especially with the big smile that he had. And the last thing that he really brought through was the concept of enlightenment. It was great. So we're all sitting here and we've all gotten like a whole bunch of stuff like totally kicked out from underneath our feet, and we're all kind of feeling sheepish because we're trying to be really good students for this guy. And then so somebody raises their hand and asks about quickenings. I was kind of excited. I was like, all right, now we're going to get to I don't want to come back again. I'm like, I'd like to like hit the big enlightenment and not have to come and do this. And so he just starts giggling. And I was like, oh crap, it's going to be another one of those answers where he's going to say, oh, good Lord, you people from the West. And one of the things that he talked about was, especially in the metaphysics realm or the religious realms, that we get connected to an idea. And an idea that, especially if you're coming through a Buddhist lineage and rebirth, then there's really no quickenings, you know, and to be okay with that. And it all was really boiling down to being okay with where you're at in the process of who you are. Because that's really where we're at. I mean, he was great. He was talking about being, so he carries this Herkin lineage that's amazing and powerful. And if you were actually to do every single thing that lineage says, you should be a Buddha. And he was like, well, if I could do that, he was like, you'd look up in the sky and you'd see cloud shape, just like Taisitsu's face. And then you would see that I was very blue and very enlightened. He's like, but that's not happening. I don't think it's for another 2,000 lives. You know, and so this guy who is like incredible, and you can see it in his face, was also at a place where his big message, and I got this a lot in India, whether it was going to an Hare Krishna temple or going to a lot of the other temples or ashrams, is that really understanding where you're at and working from there is the most important thing to be doing. It's like understanding what the worst case scenario could be, striving for the best case scenario, but really understanding where your feet were. And that was really one of the biggest lessons out of all of India. It was when I went to like the Hare Krishna temple is a great example. They were celebrating Radha and Krishna at that point in time, and there was a woman who was sitting in front of the, they pulled back these huge curtains, and there was this big statue of Radha and Krishna together, and the guy was doing the puja for it, the monk was, and this woman falls down, and she's, like heart-ripping agony because she doesn't have that love that Radha and Krishna have. And there was this amazing old woman who's one of the caretakers of this place, and she like went down, and it was almost the exact same thing, just in a different one. Is like, you got to start where you're at, you got to be present to who you are and what you're doing, and then let things unfold to be where they're at. And because you can't speed anything up, no matter how hard you try, because you're just going to get your butt kicked back to have to do what you tried to speed past doing. So that was one of the big things. Taisitsu Rinpoche will actually be here next year. We're working on trying to get him here. I don't know if that's going to happen. We have a lot of windows. So, but his big thing that and in talking to him, actually I got a chance to talk to him about SoulFood and about what this community does. But that was really one of the big things that he wanted to make sure that people really got from that transmission is that, one, we're actually really dang perfect the way that we are. And, and where we're at in the process, and just to allow it to unfold. And there's nothing wrong with, like, knowing what our limitations are and being really aware of them, and, understanding that I might have money issues, but that doesn't cloud the fact that inside in that internal space, I am who I am. And that's a part of the bigger picture. And so, so that was the less eloquent message that he gave. And all of this kind of led up to one of the big things that I wanted to talk to you guys about. And, it kind of cuts it off. Let's see. Okay, I don't think there's anything on the sides. But one of the things that he talked a lot about, too, was, and that I got a lot from different places, was whatever your faith is, or no faith, whatever heart path that you're on, boy, you can really claim it, and you can really talk the talk of it, but if you're not going to walk the walk of it, then it's just words. And whether that's in your practice, in how you express yourself every day. And for me, since I've been a little kid and been a part of the Sufis, there's been, like in the background, there's been this thing called the Hope Project. And I've done like tons of like gathering donations for it. And there's a part of me that always kind of knew what it was, but as a kid, it's like just something you grow up with, and you're like, okay, we're going to give the tithing to the Hope Project, and not really understand what it is. And so one of the things that I got a chance to do was actually go and hang out at the Hope Project, which was awesome. And for me, this was also a huge culmination of being in India, because all of these people, even being on the streets and driving these little cool things, they're called tuk-tuks, and they're like golf carts, but they're motorcycles at the same time. And most of them have these like Technicolor pictures of Hanuman and Lakshmi, or Bollywood actors. It's like it was either one. And but in all the conversations that I had with people, whether it was Sammy or all of these really amazing people, they had the best conversations. Like if you go there, talk to the taxi drivers. They're so cool. And like, honestly, anything you're ever going to learn, you're going to learn from the taxi drivers. I mean, whether they're Sikh, Hindu, whatever, but they're sometimes the people who have the best wisdom, like when you go there, because they really live it. I was driving with this guy named Sammy, and Sammy was so funny. He's all like, "You're from the States, why are you here?" And I was like, well, because I've never been here before, and I was talking to him about, growing up, all of these things had such profound impacts on me, but I didn't even know what the smell of India was like, what the taste of India, and all of these things. And he's like, you can't drink our water. Like, just looking at me like, let's really get real down to the bare tax of this. Like, you come here, you can't drink our water. You're in a place where you're safe and you can drink water there, so why would you come here? And his whole goal was actually to go to Harvard and and go through their business program, and which was fun, because then we got to do conversational English, which was great. And but one of the things that, as we were talking about this, because he's definitely somebody who I could actually really resonate with, because he's like, why would you like India? You know, and I almost could hear the back of myself thinking, you know, in those like cynical moments of like, I can't believe I live in the States, you know, and just like going through all these things. And here I am sitting in this little tuk-tuk with this guy who's like, why would you even want to come here? You know, we're poor here. You know, you can't even breathe while you're here. Most people can't even eat the food while they're here without getting sick. And one of the things that it was such a good reflection for me was, I'm the same way when people come here too. I'm like, why would you come here, man? We got like this weird political system going on. Everybody wants to buy things. And, but the part that I really, outside of that reflection, that I really loved about what Sammy had to say was, one of the things that he did was awesome, actually. So I'm kind of feeling a little sheepish, and I'm like, yeah, I kind of feel the same way about the States. And he's like, you guys, you know, kind of giving me this kind of humble kick in the butt of like how actually good we have it here. And, but then what he does say is, he's like, you know, the only thing I've noticed about the West is that you guys do a lot of talking, but you don't necessarily walk what you talk. I was like, oh, good point. Yep. And he didn't say it in a way that, you know, feel really guilty about it, but just like, that's the part of your culture that I don't understand. You know, we talk about family, and we actually really mean family. You guys talk about family, but the way that you guys talk about family is very different than the way that we talk about family, and there's not a lot of foundation in how you talk about family as opposed to how we talk about family. I was like, you know, that's actually a really, really good point. And so one of the things that was amazing just in my own personal part and being able to bring this back was going to the Hope Foundation, or the Hope Project, because part of this was started in, because Nizamuddin Ali's Basti is the poorest place in New Delhi. They don't have anything there, and which is amazing because of how many people live there. There's not a lot going on there, and there's no medical, there's no schools, no nothing. And so this was, for me, it was like, oh, that's right, this is such a good reflection of what a community can do if they have the passion and the heart to do it. And in the United States, what I really felt was that we can actually learn so much about fully walking our talk. So, so this leads me to the Hope Project. I'm a little excited. So the Hope Project is, yeah, I was talking like there's Nizamuddin Ali's Basti, and there's Hazrat Inayat Khan's Basti, and then just 2 doors down, there's the Hope Project. And so it's right on the corner in New Delhi. Does that work? Check that out. First PowerPoint presentation I've done in a while. So it was, this just kind of talks about Hazrat Nizamuddin Ali was a 12th century Sufi saint, and he was a huge proponent of the poor and people who didn't have any money, people who needed somebody to stand up for him. So he very much took on Bibi Fatima Sam's work and went forward in it. And what ended up happening is you can kind of see in this picture right here. So this is what most things look like. It's really high. It's a little fuzzy, but there's all of the streets are basically dirt, mud, goat stuff. I mean, there's a lot of goats, and or whatever ends up in the streets. So there's also a lot of garbage. You have to be really careful where you walk. In fact, in most of the durgas, you have to take off your shoes, and people live inside most of the durgas, and so you have to be really. I mean, it's funny coming from the States. It was also a good lesson of like, know where you're putting your feet. And there is no hospital inside of the Basti for that many people, and I believe it's one of the most highly populated neighborhoods in New Delhi, and New Delhi has an unofficial number of 22 million, and so there's nothing there. It's really amazing. And then, so. I had fun with this slide. I didn't know you could make all the little things. It was good. So, ever since Hazrat Inayat Khan died, there's been urs that have happened for him. And so this right here, so this is Hazrat Inayat Khan. It's one of my favorite pictures of him because he's such a cool guy. Kind of have a crush. So his son was Pierre Vilayet. You can kind of see half his face over here. But he was born in France, and so he is the successor to Hazrat Inayat Khan. And actually, his sister was the first successor, and her name was Nurnisa Inayat Khan. And she was a school teacher who lived in France and worked a lot with her dad. And then Nazi Germany occupied France, and she became a double agent, actually, and ended up teaching at German schools where the officer, I believe it was where the officers were, but she ended up being a courier and was captured by the Germans and was killed by them. And and it's said that at her death, what her last thing was said is that, "I hope you forgive yourself like God will forgive you." And so that's kind of the human being that she was. She was really amazing. And this was her younger brother, and it's said that she was such a huge influence on him, which makes a lot of sense because he married this lady, and her name is Taj. I have a crush on her. She's brilliant. And she is actually still down in California. And so Taj and Vilayet had a son named Zia. So they're going to the Urs, and there's this restaurant. It's so weird. So the Basti is incredibly poor. There's nothing really there, nothing in the sense of like any public facilities, anything like that. It's just a lot of people in a tiny spot. But there is one of the most world-renowned restaurants, not too far from, which just kind of blew my mind, not too far from Hazrat Inayat Khan's Durga. So Taj had brought her kids, Zia, and Zia's best friend. And so they had come to the Urs, and they're walking out of, the story goes, they're walking out of this restaurant, and Zia's really little, his friend's really little, and all of a sudden, she sees all of these kids. It's kind of like the first time when you notice something that you just hadn't noticed before, even though you've been going for a long time. And she gets this epiphany of like, this is so crazy. This is such a holy place. Even if you're not a Sufi, even if you're not a Hindu, you go there, and whatever they're lacking in economy, like their faith and their heart is amazing. It's incredible, and it's beautiful. And she's like, my kids are always going to be fed. My friends' kids are always going to be fed. So how is it that we get to go to such a holy place and we aren't taking care of the people who are here all the time? We have the resources to do it. So she talked to Vilayet, and the story goes not in a necessarily a really gentle way of like, this is what we're doing. Like, this is where we're going. And they started the Hope Project. And so if I remember right, there is close to, I want to say, I think they said it was close to like 1.5 million people in the Basti, somewhere right around in there. So if I remember right, that's like half of Seattle in the size of Redmond, if not a little bit more. So the Hope Project was started in '75. And it's now at this point in time, it had grown from like one mom's noticing of like, this is really, like, this is pretty weird. Like, these kids aren't getting fed. My kids are getting fed, but I come here every year to celebrate in the coolness that's here. And so it started that way. And now it provides service up to 726 specific people. That's not including their health, like what they do in their health care clinics. But this is 726 young children, girls who can't go to traditional schools because of either not having the money to, it's not socially acceptable because of the beliefs of their parents, or the fact that they might even have to take care of the kids who, like their younger kids, because their parents have to work. It also includes adults too for vocational training. So partially what I'm going to talk a lot about is it's the place that I had the most experience in, and that is their school. They have a daycare that takes care of 55 kids below the age of 3. So most of these kids, their moms work in the market, or they might not have a mom, and their older sister or older brother are in the non-formal school. And so it's great because you can go in. I get a chance to go in there, and there are these little monkeys and princes and princesses, and they're just amazing little kids. And they get 2 full meals, free health care. They, if there is, since the health clinic sees 1 case of tuberculosis every week, oh no, it was every 4 days they see 1 new case of tuberculosis. What they'll do is they give, they make sure that all the kids get all of their shots. So if they need any, whereas like here you can kind of opt out of giving your kids any immunization, vaccinations. If you were going up there, you wouldn't want to do that. And so they make sure that all the kids get their monthly vaccinations, make sure that they get enough nutrition and health care. And then they also have a pre-primary, which are 42 kids in a non-formal pre-primary school. And that's actually where I spent most of my time because they thought I was a big white giraffe. It was awesome. And so, I was one of, while we were there, it was fun. I had like 4 kids hanging off my legs at one point in time and 1 on each arm, because they were small kids, and so they're kids who are just incredible and brilliant. And a lot of the times in the pre-primary, what will happen is it's a lot of like what will happen with the girls. Their parents just don't have enough money to send them to school, and even though the state schools are free, you still have to buy the paper, kind of like here. The supplies aren't provided. And so just even not being able to afford the paper will keep them out of an education. So, and the non-formal is great too, because it is, some parents will work kind of like right when the sun comes up. And so the Hope Project is open at that point in time, and we'll take them, throughout the whole day. Some of the pre-primary, some of the kids are there for only 3 hours. And so there's not a really hard structure. And in fact, which I thought was really brilliant in looking at all of this, this is all funded by Western money. I mean, in real honesty, it's all funded by Western money and some Indian corporations, but it's run wholly by the people of the Basti. So they are given the money, and they are, and it's entrusted to them, and they make up programs that actually work for their community. So it's not a bunch of people coming in and being like, you've got to do it this way because we know what's right. They actually will sit and work with most of the people who run the Hope Project, went through the Hope Project themselves. So a lot of them are return people. And the other thing that they do is they do an enormous amount of community outreach. When the Hope program first started, and specifically in the girls' non-formal school, they weren't allowed to have chairs or tables, because most of these kids are what would be called the untouchable class, right? So the girls, like their parents didn't want them to get used to tables and chairs because they were going to never have tables and chairs. And through whatever reasoning, whether it was fear or just wanting to protect their kids, they said, you can't give them tables and chairs because they'll expect this. They're going to be rag pickers. That's just cruel on some level. And so what the Hope Project did, which I thought was so brilliant, I was so proud of them, over the course of 15 years, they slowly started to introduce these concepts instead of building it so that when the girls came in, they just got big cushy cushions. The girls sat on the floor. And everybody was really actually happy to have big cushy cushions, because that's not necessarily what they had at home. And but over, and now at this point in time, when you go into the girls' non-formal schools, they have computers, and they've got, lizards hanging out in terrariums, and I mean, it's amazing, and they've got tables and chairs, but it's only been through their neighborhood, working with their neighborhood, to be able to be sensitive enough to their parents' fears, which are, they're valid and they're huge. And whether or not, like, somebody coming from the West be like, well, why can't they have tables and chairs? They understood what the cultural repercussions of that were, and they were sensitive enough to that and smart enough to do that, to work within those boundaries and slowly bring the community to a place where these girls, the girls' non-formal school went to their first, since most of the girls, they don't get to go outside of the Basti, they took them to the beach, and for the first time. And they took 22 young women to the beach, and when we went there, they were having their science fair, which rocked, and they had just come from the beach, and so there were all of these pictures, and when the girls were talking about going to the beach for the first time, a lot of them were crying, because it's the first time that they had seen something that huge, and it's the first time that they'd been ever out of the Basti itself. And so to get this glimpse of this bigger world, and they do get glimpses of it because they get to do science classes and things like that, but to viscerally get a chance to be there. A lot of, especially young girls, they don't get a chance to go to school. And so the walk-in program is, they can come in at any point in time in their education. They might have had a year of education, and then that little girl, by the way, in the front was so funny because every time I was going to take her picture, she'd do this like crazy face, and I'd try to catch it because those are my favorite ones. And right when I was clicked, she'd get this like totally solemn, like, I'm very professional look. It was brilliant. But she was one, she's a part of the other program, but the walk-in program, you can come in at the age of 14 and never have any kind of education. And they will take you, and they will, using actually Montessori principles, they will take the kids and they'll get them up to what's called the state exams. And that is like basically your high school diploma. And then what they'll do from there is they will help you find the funding to go to college if you want to go to college. They'll give you vocational training if you want vocational training. But they will basically walk through all of that just so that the kids will get all the way up to basically a high school education. The support program is for, actually for these kids right here. This is Alia, Johanna, and that was Samuel. It was awesome. He actually licked the side of my face, so I knew that we were going to be friends for life. But these guys are a part of the support program because a lot of the state schools don't get funding. They, the Hope Project for the kids in the Basti, they have created a support program so that you can come in and no matter what kind of help you need that you're not getting in the state schools, they provide a tutor for it. And it's all free to the community. So, and so they have kids all the way, going up to their state exams who will come in and get help tutor for the state exams to little kids because their teachers might be gone. They also have the Working Children's Program. And at this point in time, I think there's 64 kids who are in there, and they're mostly kids who go to work with their parents. They might be auto drivers, they might work in houses, but they are kids who are working in, but still want an education. So the Hope Project will actually stay open until 9 o'clock at night so that these kids can come in and get whatever tutoring, whatever they need so that they can continue their education. They have what's called a Safe House program. So this group of kids actually they're a part of the Safe House program. What ends up happening a lot of the times is after school, especially the pre-primary, so the kids get to go home if they want to, but a lot of the times there's nobody at home for them to go home to, so they started what was called the Safe House program, and it looks a lot like the YMCA. The kids get to go in, they get to take classes if they want to, and they've got, inside of the Hope Project, they have a big courtyard. They like to play kickball. It was awesome. I got my butt kicked at kickball, but so they play afterwards, and they have a safe place to eat a meal. And all of the kids are provided free food. So, and it was great talking to some of the kids about, they were kind of telling me about like their lunches, and it so reminded me of my daughter. She was like, well, he was kind of gross today, and you're like, okay, that's cool. But all of them are also really but if I'm ever hungry, I get a chance to eat there, and they never say no. And then when I went there too, they have what's called a night shelter, and this was actually the part that I was the most not most amazed with, but it's one of the most underfunded, which made me really amazed. The night shelter is for young boys who live on the streets. So they provide a place for 42 young boys to come in and sleep at night, be able to hold all of their, anything that's personal for them. They have lockers for them. And then they also do vocational training. They get free health care, any food that they want to, with no questions asked. And a lot of the kids go through it, and they end up doing the vocational training. And there's also a lot of, they do a lot of drug counseling. And so that's been a really successful part of it too. Their health services for the Basti, they do allopathic and homeopathic, and I spelled homeopathic wrong. That's okay. Is available. So whichever one you want to do, traditional or non-traditional. And that's all working within their system. So it's not about introducing something that is foreign. It's about introducing what is tried and true in their neighborhood and really making it work. So they have an OPD clinic that you can go into for 3 rupees a month, and they will give you complete health care. They have a reproductive health care for women who are pregnant and they might not have gotten any information from their mom, midwife, and so they can go in and they will take care of women who are pregnant and also women who aren't pregnant and say these are what your options are. And then they also have a child care program where they'll go and before kids are 5, they make sure that they have enough milk and nutrition to be able to kind of combat some of the pretty regular diseases that are in the Basti that can be helped through nutrition. The incomes and livelihood, they do vocational training. And this is my favorite part. Well, one of my favorite parts, it's all my favorite part, but microloans. So these 3 women are some of the very first women who were a part of the microloan program. So they started with vocational training, and then they made their own bank. And within that bank, they now have 375 other women that they do microloans with. And it's rotating, and it keeps on growing. One woman was married to a guy, and they had 6 kids, and he took off. And her family was like, you obviously did something wrong, and kicked her out with her 6 kids. And she got involved in this program, and she now owns a grocery store. And so, and it's amazing because she does the full hijab, and so, you can only see her eyes. And so her grocery store is one of the most popular grocery stores for that section of women because they can go in, and she already kind of is like, nobody's going to hassle you here, And so she now provides completely for her 6 kids through that microloan. And so she's now loaning out to other women. Oh, it's the end of the slideshow. Okay. So when I wanted to bring forward the HOPE project, it's not to solicit for funds, just so that everybody knows that. You get to do with, that's not at all what it is. But what I did want to bring is that this community has an incredible amount of potential and an incredible amount of light. And what I wanted to do was just bring the HOPE project to be able to see this is what happens when people who are passionate and who see a light and want to work towards that light work together. And that was one of the big things that I brought back from India is the incredible amount of wealth, and not speaking monetarily wealth here, I'm speaking like the wealth of resources that we all have. And I just wanted to show that because that's like one of the poorest neighborhoods in the world. And this is what they're doing. And whereas they were started with seed money from lots of different orders, and there's still donations. I've got their booklet here, so you can see where all their money comes from. But most of their money comes from the money that they earn. I mean, they really work hard to make sure that everybody gets health care, that people get an education. And I just wanted to bring that back to be like, hey, man, we've got some incredible stuff going on here. And this is just one neighborhood doing something. And just to bring back that inspiration of as a neighborhood, what can we actually do? What are the things that with our resources, how we can make such an incredible difference for our neighborhood? And not that we need to go to India and save anybody, but it just would be good that if we actually were aware of what we have here and the things that are stopgapping here that we need to really pay attention to and as a community come forward. So that was India in a nutshell, a very tiny nutshell, and a PowerPoint presentation. So thank you guys for coming. Oh. I brought their whole project summary, what they do.
Siya Ram, Jai Jai Hanuman. Jai 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 Siya Ram, Jai 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 Bajranga Bali, Baba Hanuman. Jai Bajranga Bali, Jai Hanuman. Sankatamochan Kripanidhan. Sankatamochan Kripanidhan. Jai Siya Ram, Jai Jai Hanuman. Jai Siya Ram, Jai Jai Hanuman. Jai Siya Ram, Jai Jai Hanuman. Jai Siya Ram, Jai Jai Bajranga Bali, Jai Hanuman. Jai Bajranga Bali, Jai Jai Hanuman. Sankatamochan Kripanidhan. Sankatamochan Kripanidhan. Jai Siya Ram, Jai Jai Siya Ram, Jai Jai Siya Ram, Jai Jai Siya Ram, Jai 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 Hanuman Gosai. Kripakarahu Gurudev Kinai. Sankatamochan Kripanidhan. La Langote La Nishan. Jai Siya Ram, Jai Jai Hanuman. Jai Siya Ram, Jai Jai Siya Ram, Jai Siya Ram, Jai Jai Hanuman. 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 Jai Siya Ram, Jai Jai Siya Ram, Jai Jai Hanuman. Jai Siya Ram, Jai Jai Hanuman. Jai Siya Sitaram. Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Om Shri Matre Namah. Om Shri Matre Namah. Jambe Gauri, Jaya Shama Gauri. Om Shri Matre Namah. Om Shri Matre Namah. Om Shri Matre Namah. Jambe Gauri, Jaya Shama Gauri. Om Shri Matre Namah. Jaya Jagat Ambe, Jai Jai Jagat Ambe, Ye Ma Durga, Ye Ma Durga, Jai Jagat Ambe, Jai Jagat
Hello everybody, welcome back. Today we are just blessed to have a bunch of light shining. Our neighborhood doesn't ever cease to amaze me. The people who walk through our front door and the world-changing effects that we have on our neighborhood and on the globe. We're gonna now start the next part of the presentation, which is AC Sherpa. Is not only a local fella here, but has set his sights to conquer and set a Guinness Book of World Records to summit the 7 highest peaks in the 7 continents in 1 year. He has done 6 of them so far. Within the next month, we'll be sending him off to Everest to summit the 7th. Today, he's here to bring an awareness and shine a light on his path and the changes that he is leading the world. Let's welcome to our home here, AC Sherpa.
Good afternoon. My name is AC Sherpa. I was originally born in Nepal, but living here 22 years in the United States. First of all, I'd like to say thank you to SoulFood bookstore for having me here, and the other everybody coming here to see my presentation and my time to follow up, and I appreciate that all being here. Reason I'm doing this 7 Summit for around the world, I named the 7 Summit is called 7 Summit for Women and Children Foundation. 7 Summit and Women and Children Foundation is started in 2002 here in Seattle. What happened is after I'm leaving, I live in here in 22 years. Finally, I got my permanent resident card in the United States, and they accepted me to going back to Nepal. When I going back to Nepal, situation in back there and worse than when worse than when I was there, and living in the United States and having all this great opportunity and being such a wonderful place, and going back and those people who didn't have those opportunity what I had, and that kind of drive me to get this foundation going. And Himalayan Women and Children Foundation is founded in a few members of the Northwest. One of them is Otto Isparka. He's from Austria. It's a general manager in the Harbor Club in Bellevue. And the other person is my wife, Dr. Alison Hahn, Essence of Dentistry. And the third person is Dr. Baptista Kwok from Issaquah, and myself, and Ben Altman from San Diego, California. Basically, why we are doing this, we are trying to, basically we are focusing Women and Children Foundation, because women and children, women are in Nepal, in the village, in the remote village in Himalaya. They are married in age of 14, between 16, and left in their home without any, like medical, health, education, nothing. So basically they kind of stay home and take care of kids and cook in the home. And children are basically go to school, and they trying to learn much as they could with a Nepali teacher, but they do not have another second language much to follow. And that's why we kind of name, we focus in Himalayan Women and Children Foundation is for mainly for women and children, but we do also look after male too. But we've been doing a voluntary in Nepal since 2002, dental, medical, vision, hydro project, and education. So far we have just, we've been done like about 6 or 7 trips in Nepal to do a dental work and medical work. We've seen over the past, we've seen more than 1,500 patients or more each year. And those people, we're trying to slowly change the concept around to believing in doctor, because people in the village, they believe in more shaman than doctors. And they carry their pain even like they have like a root canal or like a painful mouth going on. They basically chew in rock salt to release the pain from there. And we are trying to go help each year to educate them how we can maintain their teeth, like a cleaning at least twice a year. We leave trip here February and August, so we can have a 6 months time. They can have a same benefit in here. The other thing is, for us to operate same dentistry in medical in like United States, we have to have a machine to operate, just like a equipment here. And the equipment here, we have to operate there, we have to have a hydroelectric power. For that reason that we kind of jump into the first, our project was electric city, hydro project in the village of almost about 182 homes. And the project is almost completely 85%. And now we are trying to build 2 dental, 2 medical, 2 vision facility, also 3 schools in Nepal. And it's a remote village, which is like almost about 45 minutes from Kathmandu. It's by flight. And right now there's a Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. They built one women's birth center, almost like a 10 operatory birth center, but birth center is kind of basically in the district. They have electricity, everything set up now. And for that, we kind of on and off, we use their medical clinic also, and we also donate our equipment if we done voluntary some year. If because the weather, because the political situation, we kind of help the local office. The local office that we just built, Electric City, is about the district office, like 3 days away from these villages. And these villages has almost about 2,000, 3,000 people living in these villages. And basically they do agriculture, growing like a potato, buckwheat, and apples. And they make a trade in the district, like a bazaar. It's called Hut Bazaar. So they go there and trade with other good what they couldn't grow, and they bring them back home. And if the people has a critical sickness, like medically, they have to carry almost about 3 to 4 days on the jungle, cross over like a 5,000 meter, the hill, mountains, to get to this medical, which Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation built. And there's no Peace Corps, UNICEF, or none of the organization has been in this part of the village. And today, my presentation about 7 Summit is because nobody knows who's AC Sherpa. I chose to, in 2009, I chose to do a 7 Summit around the world to benefit this foundation. And 7 Summit, people are gonna say, why 7 Summit? Because it costs already about almost $80,000 to $100,000 to just, do the 7 Summit, and how are you gonna benefit? I had a lot of questions those, but the thing is, since I have to put my name out there so people know they can recognize me. The second thing is also, 7 Summit Foundation is, I'm writing a book right now. It's called 7 Summit for Women and Children Foundation. That book will be released in 2010, end of the 2010. And I'm trying to get into this bunch of different, like a media attention, and also trying to get a match from each bunch of other organization. Right now, my source of income for the foundation is coming through couple of different businesses, like Essence of Dentistry, Travel X Insurance, like some other employee from Microsoft, and they are kind of matching the fund to help me out, this organization. But after my 7 Summit, I'm kind of trying to expand it, and right now I was just kind of like they selected me for Tourism Board of Nepal to promote for 2011 and ongoing 2015. With that, probably gonna be even more recognizable, and then bring more fun to the foundation by public speaking, which is, that might gonna help. That's my thought. And also, since the board of people told me that AC Sherpa, nobody knows what can you do? That's what I select for 7 Summit, but it wasn't a happy moment for my family, my wife and kids, because I had to convince almost about 5-6 months before she okay me, so 2 days before trip to Denali. And even though she had a worry in herself, and because I have a little one, like 3 years old, and she said, you sure you can summit it because you've been here sea level over 22 years. But luckily, the climbing in mountain is number one thing is a weather issue. Number two is also like you're fit. Number three is like about make sure you have the right gear and right people with you. And the lucky number one was mine is weather because when I arrived in Alaska in 2009 in May 28 and hit to the mountain in June 2nd, arriving down to Talkeetna, the weather, people was stuck there 11 days on the mountain, but when I arrived there, weather was perfectly clear. And Alpine Institute in Bellingham, who supported me, all the food and everything, but even though I had to carry 140 pounds behind my back and with a slate and on the mountain, but their record was last 20 years, climbing on Denali, their expedition, they had about 22 days expedition and 14 days the fastest summit, but we broke their record to about a 13 days summit, and it was a great weather, non-stop climbing. So that gave me a lot of confidence. And 2 days I was kind of on the mountain, like I stopped contacting my wife, and like I turned off my cell phone, and I was focusing in the mountain to pray and trying to hit to the summit. And there was like a couple of gentlemen who climbed Everest already twice, and they went to the summit. When they came back, they had like a weather is totally cloud out, and they couldn't find their way, and they fell 600 feet down, and both of them died. And when they released that news in the local channel, my wife thought that was, that was me. So she was very freaked out, and they're calling each other, all the family and stuff. And then my brother was in Hawaii, and they're kind of, my brother told him, see, I told you, Allison, not to send him in the mountain. And so they're all worried. And all of a sudden, and then I call on the May 13, it's June 13. I was in the top of the summit. I call in satellite phone. Her birthday was in May 13, and 13 was her birthday, so I called from the summit saying happy birthday, but 1 month later, but I'm here in the summit, and then celebrated with her, and that was kind of a very highly, confident I got, and I moved forward to my summit. I never thought I gonna break the record. I never thought I was going for the record, but with my limited experience, I thought I gonna climb 7 summit within 10 months. That was my goal. But now, it's 6 months, it's 8 months later, I already summit all six of the mountain and in the each continent. Those mountains are Denali, Kilimanjaro, Elbrus, Kosciuszko, Aconcagua, and Benson. Last within 1 month, I climbed 2 mountains. Aconcagua is 6,962 meter, and Benson is 16,067 feet high. I summit, and now I'm heading to Everest in this coming March 17th, and trying to start climbing in April 26th, and trying to reach the summit by May 10th to 15th. And local Channel 4 and Channel 5 will be following my summit, and I hope it will be great weather for me again in waiting for me in Everest, and that's I'm hoping. But meanwhile, the 7th summit for Himalayan Women Children Foundation, that people from the village expect me to make a change and help the education, medical health, benefit. Those things are kind of drove me into the 7th summit, and I'm putting my life in the line to do the 7th summit in the world. And I was also noticed that there's a gentleman from Germany. He climbed Everest, 7th summit, 172 days, climbing days in the world. But I'm gonna be, so far I have used 26.5 days, and I'm trying to limit Everest in 20 days. And if I can do that in 45 days, that would be a new record for me. So hopefully we'll see. And my following videos are like mostly about what we did in the Himalaya, landing through, just like summiting Everest and going through from Kathmandu to the village in 45-minute flight. You're gonna have a heart attack because you're flying one of the highest point of the Himalayas, all these hills, and top of the winds, and then like a landing would be not like a very pitch gravel in the road like here. It's landing on top of the grass, and it's kind of a very unique and experience you will get. And if there's any question, I do not have much title, but you will see all the dental volunteer schools and all this what we have done in the past. You will see some of the video, and I will speak more in the middle of the video. Thank you.
पनि म आफैले सोध्छु र भाइ बहिनीहरूलाई पनि यस्तै खालका चान्स पाएर विदेशमा गई पढ्ने मौका पाओस् भन्ने मेरो ठुलो आशा छ र तपाईँ यो मेरो दोस्रो चोटि यो स्कुलमा भेट्नु पाउँदा मलाई धेरै खुसी लाग्यो र फेरि पनि आएर यो स्कुलमा मैले एक शब्द
down to the horses?
So that's Nepal. Most of part of the Nepal and it's eastern Himalaya. Basically, people have a income level of maybe about $150 a year. They live in that kind of income, and they are still happy. And but still, I mean, the condition, the pain they carry inside, and they didn't come outside to speak themselves. And I think that's one of the part that we are very focusing Eastern Himalaya, the village called Tapting, Kirung, and Gora. Basically, you can Google through the thing and look at it, those town. And now I'm gonna show you a little clip about my 7th summit, some of the mountain that I've been to and summit. But if you have any question, I know I apologize for not being go by one clips because the video is kind of is hard to stop and go back. But if you have any question about the Nepal portion of it, the people working on the rock and those things, or like there's two gentlemen was playing those like look like a wooden board. Those are like basically handmade paper that they basically make some like a Nepali handmade or paper from the tree. The other thing is that the gentlemen, they build a house by hand, carving all the rock. They can finish up those house within 6 to 8 months. So those are the things. So if you have any question, I'll let you know more, okay? Here I am. Trying to do 7th summit. What the hell am I doing? I have no idea. This is the worst day and worst time, the worst load I ever carried in my life. that's mostly my 7th summit video. So far it's the 6th summit, which is I had a great trip in Denali in 13 days. I had a Kilimanjaro. I climbed 16 hours and 37 minutes back and forth. And Elbrus, I did 8 hours and 14 minutes. And Kosciuszko was the most hardest one, 2 hours and 32 minutes, but it's really easy, actually. It's really easy. Anybody can hike that mountain. But as a 7th summit that, like the Dick Pass, climb the other mountain, Carson Pyramid, and the other gentleman climbed the Kosciuszko, but there's a little bit confusion about which climb. But either one of them you can climb, you can summit in 7th summit in the world. And Aconcagua was very difficult mountain that I had a really tough time. There's more than 30 people or more had a frostbite when I was going up the mountain, and they came down. Germany group, Korean group, they all got a frostbite and came down. The weather was below almost about 30 degrees, 35 degrees. It's very cold. And when we are, when we were down there, and there's like one gentleman he's from U.S. and he's actually original from Thailand, but he lives in U.S. many years. He was, I think, he's a resident here, and he died. I saw the body in the top of the Aconcagua, and he was kind of feel really bad. But the thing is, the gentleman was, I think he didn't took his sleeping bag, and he was kind of basically going up there and sleep up the top, and he ended up dying. And he was only 39 years old. And the policio from Argentina asked me, and how old are you? And I said, I'm 38. And then the guy said, the guy who died in the top, that Asian guy, he's 39 years old. And I was kind of really scared myself. Sorry, that's my. But so kind of, being in the mountain, Denali was my American Alpine Institute helped me out, and I had a team of 9 at the summit. We got into only 4 people and reached the summit. But all the 5 mountains so far, I did all solo, and ended up helping other people. But been lucky. Hopefully, Everest would be like that way, and come back and do my presentation and show all my video and my Everest summit and my hometown favor in Nepal, and we'll come back and thinking about doing a video slideshow in Mountaineers Club in down Seattle. And you guys can also track me down through the Facebook, Twitter, or also in Channel 5 and Channel 7. They will be also putting when I reach the summit, I will be calling from the satellite radio to them, let them know I'm going to be up there. Other than that, I appreciate all the support, and so far I got people who helped me out to accomplish this much in all my 6 summit, and continue to see it's gonna go far. And I have very positive thought that I know that I have a good gentleman who summit, my Sherpa friend who summit already Everest in 8 times, and he's gonna be leading to me in the summit, and I think it's gonna be safe for me. Yeah, you never cannot predict what's going to happen for tomorrow, but I will pray myself and pray to the Everest that they're going to give me some hope. So thank you for all coming, and thank you for the SoulFood Bookstore. And if you guys have any question, I would like to answer at this time. No, I haven't climbed with oxygen. All my 6 summits are without oxygen. And I did climb in Choyo back in 2002, and that also without oxygen. It's 8,200 meters in Nepal. Tibet. So. I am thinking not to, and I cannot say that because my wife told me to use oxygen, but so it's kind of you asked me that question right as you walk in, so.
What does it feel like to be at the top of the
Feel like great, you know, you don't have to worry about anything. You don't have to pay all this bill and tax and stuff. So you feel great. I mean, you know, being in the mountain is like such a spiritual. When you look down, saying like you accomplished something, and being in top of there, like look like you can do anything. It's great. I mean, like you know, a lot of people has a scare height, but if you can start little by little and reach the summit, and I mean, you're going to be in the plane like a 30,000 high in the plane. If you can ride a plane, you're climbing with the feet. I think it's much more, for me, it's like as long as you're avoid from crevasse, or like you know, being with a great climber to partner together. I think it's mountain is safe place also too, but you know, sometimes people die because they have an ego. They said, I wanted to reach the summit, whether the weather is good or not. Those are the people might gonna have a trouble, but you need to learn to turn around, saying mountain always gonna be there, but you know, I will come back. If it's bad days, I will turn around right now. That's how it is supposed to be. Yes, it's a great question. Thank you asking for that. It's basically, you know, we cannot, I mean, continue in base and go there continually there. Reason our goal to build those dental medical dental building is to local female or male that who has about high school degree or college degree. We are trying to pay salary rather than taking a flight from here to Nepal, pay $1,500, we can pay their salary for a whole year, that money. So train them and run those clinic in the future. That's our main goal. So thank you. And individually, if you have a, also I had some brochure in here in the table, how that so much, how we raise the fund so much so far. Essence of Dentistry, if you are a new patient and go there and join a new patient, what they do, they, for each patient, refer through my foundation, they donate $250 to the foundation for each new patient. And also, like say, Travel X insurance, when somebody, not only you're traveling Nepal, you're traveling to anywhere in the world, everybody buy life insurance, and if you buy life insurance through them, they donate about each package you buy travel insurance, they donate about $50 to the foundation. And the other thing is like a Microsoft, you know, when employee donates to like say $150 in foundation, match it up to that with the through the Bill Gates Foundation. So those the fund we are getting from right now to help. And other than that, we are getting also help from some of the local people who knows our organization, and we are also recognized by American Dental Association and their website. You can see that. And then the other thing is by participating in volunteering, you can have volunteer like 5 days in to help out the dentistry and go to the Everest Base Camp trek for less than our what we charge is about close to $3,000, but what with that you get a 18 days trip, you get a Sherpa guide, porter, food, everything included. Whatever left in that profit, 100% goes to the foundation. If you book through Himalayan Sherpa Trek and Expedition. And now those the thing that we generated fund, and we'll see, you know, we have more people who can help us. Thank you.